the house. He's going to talk to us about all these key elements. Just a quick introduction to Garth. He's a co-founder of the Wannabe Champion, which is a golf performance academy operating out of three influential golf clubs in South Africa: Serengeti, Golf Estate, Goodyear, as well as Fancourt in George. Garth works as a fitness specialist and has been helping professional and amateur golfers over the past 20 years. He completed his BSc honors in human kinetics and is also certified through the National Academy of Sports Medicine, the CHCK Institute, and is also a level 3 PPI medical and fitness practitioner. He currently divides his time between the tour travel, where he's actually based in the US at the moment, and also with his professional golfers and working out of the academy at Fancourt with the members and the elite amateur golfers. He has worked with numerous professional golfers playing on the PGA and European tours, the LPGA, as well as the Sunshine Tour. His players have won 33 tournaments over the world, which is quite impressive. Garth also helped develop the sports science module for the PGA of South Africa, and he's also presented a few seminars and webinars for PGA professionals across the country, and which was also part of the CPD program. So without any further ado, Garth, welcome. Thanks so much for your time, and we're looking forward to your session.
Thank you, Francois. Thank you for having me. Thank you, everybody, for joining. I know it's midday-ish in South Africa, so hopefully this is on your lunch break and you're not losing too much time at the golf club. I'm currently, as Francois said, I'm in the United States. I'm in Miami at the moment, here for the Live event. So I found a little space in the bowels of the gym here. You can see I've got the steps at the back here, but anyway, we managed to find a quiet spot, so hopefully we don't get interrupted. So I just wanted to share my screen quickly because we're going to talk about. Okay, so basically, like Francois said, hang on, where's my screen here? Not that. Hang on. Sorry, folks. We involved technical difficulty here. Share screen. I don't know why I can't share my screen yet, Franz. All of a sudden, did it earlier.
Yeah, it is strange, hey?
I had it earlier. It said share screen. Stop presenting. No, hang on. Share screen. Audio.
And you do see the screen if you click on the share screen, it gives that drop-down menu, right?
Yeah, it says that. Then it says start broadcast. Everything on your screen, including notifications, will be recorded. Okay. So I do that. And now I need. Are you seeing my screen, folks?
Yes, I can see there's like a background. Secret to success. There's something's happening.
Okay, great. Okay, cool. Okay, perfect. So it's going. Okay, great. Okay.
Awesome.
So, folks, apologies. I thought that this is my first time presenting on Teams. I haven't presented on Teams, it's usually Zoom. So I was expecting to see myself in the corner. Okay, so basically, let's run through the secret to success. So I'm very fortunate enough to work with some very, very good golfers. And this, to me, and to my environments and a lot of the players that I work with, this is what it means to be successful. It's all about trophies, right? It's all about winning. It's about, getting your name on that trophy. That's what these guys and girls get up in the morning and go through all the hard work and effort to do. That is the pinnacle. That is how they are measured as success. Certainly within the opinions of the world's golfing public, everyone is graded and assessed and valued on whether they win or not, right? And I'm afraid that's a very tough environment in which to live. There are a number of different other sports where success is measured in different ways. For this gentleman, Christian Horner, if many of you follow Formula One, or if you don't follow Formula One but watch Drive to Survive, you'll know that for Christian Horner, it's winning. for us, it's all about winning. So Christian Horner just wants to win. That's what Red Bull is about. And if you have watched Drive to Survive, I highly recommend you do if you haven't. He talks a lot about, it's we win or we're out. There's no option there. So there's this gentleman here. His name is Tiger Woods. I think we all know who he is, and he was famous for saying that second is first loser. So that's again that inherent drive to win, and maybe that's why he's the most winningest golfer of all time. To be fair, when you look at his win percentage. But that's how he kind of looked at his success, and that's what he was measured against. I don't know if any of you know who this gentleman, Alex Albon. He races for Williams Racing, also a Formula One team, but not one of the top teams in Formula One. And for him and for their team, his measure of success is progress. He says it's seeing progress. So for Williams, obviously being down at the bottom of the totem pole in Formula One, for him it's about their team gaining and making improvements, race to race, year to year, so that they can move up the rankings and the finishing standings at the end of every season. So, maybe a different mindset, a different approach. Someone who's at the top of the pylon, as in Red Bull, they just want to win because they're winning. It's what they're used to, and that's what they measure themselves against. But someone like Alex Albon at Williams Racing and Williams, their thing is about progress, just wanting to see that they're continually getting better. And I think we'll see as we go through, like the different elements in different spaces and different environments, measures of success do vary. So you can see this is how a lot of people might view success. Obviously, it's about winning trophies for some people. For other people, it's about winning a race. For others, it's about overcoming an adversity, whether that be, whatever that adversity may be in your life. For some, it's just a simple, reaching milestones like riding a bicycle or tying your shoelaces. So success is measured in all sorts of different ways and different forms and different environments because, any endeavor that we enter into, there is a measure of success for us once we've achieved that end goal, whether it might be learning how to play a piano. Where does your measure of success lie, and where do we finish? And more importantly, is there actually ever a finish line? So for a lot of people, would be the difference of how they measure themselves for success, because it really is task specific at the end of the day. So most people, obviously, when they see success, they think, oh, this is what it looks like. I start here and it's a straight line to the top. But anyone who's achieved it knows that this is what it really looks like. It's a very messy, very potholed riddled road, maybe something like we have up in Limpopo. So for me, this is what success is about. I found this quote, and it says that success is less about a performance and more about performing. True sustainable success is a combination of committed mindset, perspective, effort, and self-leadership. It is an ongoing journey. Now, this is not my quote. This is a quote from someone who is extremely successful in life. And I don't know if you guys can maybe perhaps think who it might have been who said this, but I'll put you out your misery. It was a lady by the name of Steffi Graf. And Steffi, arguably probably the second most successful tennis player behind Serena Williams in the women's game. She won 22 Grand Slams. In fact, she won the calendar Grand Slam. So she won all 4 slams in 1 year. And she also added the gold medal at the Olympic Games to that. So she's the first person ever to win all 5 of those titles, singles titles in one calendar year. And actually the last person to do that. Novak Djokovic has got close, but Steffi's the last person to do that. And when you look at her, for someone who potentially also measures herself whether she wins, Grand Slams, particularly Grand Slams, or not, she stated that this is how she measures her level of success. It's not about a single performance, a single win, a single trophy. It's more about performing over a sustained period of time. And it all comes down to your mindset, your perspective, your effort, and your self-leadership in that space, because that then builds a level of success. And like she says at the end, it is an ongoing journey. That is what this life is about. So that's really what we're looking at. We're looking at a process or a journey from start to finish. And, is that finish the end of your career? Is that finish the end of a 4-year period up until an Olympic Games? And then do you start that process again? Potentially. It depends in whatever space you find yourself. So I love this quote from Steffi, and I think it really encapsulates what success and more importantly, the pursuit of success should truly entail. So let's look at some people who we may well consider to have been successful. you can see that this journey started with this young man. And I'm sure many of you may be able to identify who he is by the nature of the person who's standing next to him. But you might recognize that is Siya Kolisi, our South African rugby captain, and the man to lift the Webber Trophy consecutive World Cups, and truly a great leader and a leader of men. This guy, I think we all know who this is. We've seen enough videos and tutorials of this young man and his journey to become one of the greatest golfers of all time. And that, again, has also been a process and a journey, to be fair, to get to that point. There's this gentleman here, this young man, and I think maybe if you look carefully at his face, you might be able to identify who he is. That is Barack Obama, the 44th president of the United States, and arguably one of the most successful presidents in recent times. And in my opinion, one of the greatest leaders of the free world at the moment that has been. And again, he also spoke extensively in his book, if any of you had read it, about that process, about that journey, about that continued pursuit of success, and the way he is measured for success in the world of politics is very different, and sometimes very fickle, because it's all from someone else's point of view. And he and his wife Michelle were very, very deliberate with how they would measure themselves, whether they'd been successful in his time of office. And obviously he was fortunate enough to serve 2 terms, an 8-year period in the Oval Office for the United States. There's this gentleman. Maybe you would not recognize him at that age. Maybe one or two might be able to guess who that is. It's actually South African, and his name is Elon Musk. Innovator and world's wealthiest man. Well, I know that Jeff Bezos is also up there now, but Elon certainly, again, has been a process and a journey, and he is constantly on that. And I don't know if any of you have read his books, but he also talks about exactly the same thing. When he was young, it was all about learning and failing, more importantly. I mean, the very first thing that he actually sold and created a business around, I don't know if any of you actually know this, it was a flamethrower. And that's actually what he produced and sold. And obviously that was a success in some shapes and forms and a failure in others. But his journey to the top hasn't been a straight line. But I think his grit and determination and his commitment and single-mindedness has certainly got him to the point at which he is now. And as they say, the sky's the limit. Well, for him right now, I think Mars is the limit. But again, a process and a journey to get to where he is. There's this lady here, and I don't know if any of you know who she is. We are measuring ourselves up until now against success stories and pinnacles and achievements. But this lady here is Mother Teresa, and she was a nun missionary, became the Saint Teresa of Calcutta, and was an incredible woman. Had a lot of success in her space, in her environment. Won the Nobel Peace Prize, and in fact changed probably more lives than any of those other 3 gentlemen in the previous 3 examples. Then there's this gentleman. I don't know if you know who he is. His name is Nick Vujicic. He's an evangelist, author, and motivational speaker. And I include him because he truly is a remarkable human being. Nick is an Australian. He lives in America now. He's married. He's married to this lovely lady, and he's got 4 wonderful children. But what makes Nick truly exceptional is that Nick has not got any arms. He was born without arms. And not only that, he was actually born without all limbs. So Nick has got no arms and no legs, and is a very successful, very driven, very award-winning evangelist, very popular evangelist, but guest speaker and motivational speaker. And he really has had great influence and changed a lot of people's lives because of what he's done and looking at his life. And it truly is inspirational. If any of you get the chance, look him up. There's some good videos on YouTube and 60 Minutes and things like that have followed him. And truly a very successful man in that state. So it shows you that, just because you were born with a disability as such, he obviously doesn't see it as a disability. It doesn't mean that you cannot be successful in whatever vocation you choose. So I think it's important to realize that, we all get dealt a different hand at the end of the day. Nick obviously got a very different hand to Tiger Woods. But it says that life is not always about a matter of holding good cards, but sometimes playing a poor hand well. And I think that's maybe what Nick Vujicic has done. And that just shows you that success is still attainable for everybody. Even if you feel like you've maybe been a little bit shortchanged in things, It's not just so that you can't achieve your dreams. Now, let's look at how we can go about this, because most people, when they look at success, they see the top of the iceberg. They see the awards, they see the trophies, they see the medals, and that's what's seen. And that's really what makes the newspapers, right? It makes the news. I think in light of what we've seen, particularly with these documentaries like Drive to Survive and Full Swing and these type of expose documentaries now on Netflix, and we're starting to realize that there is actually an entire iceberg that's under the water that we don't see, and people don't see the sacrifice, the growth mindset, the persistence, the goals, the expenses, the tears, the determinations, obviously the rejections and the sleepless nights that all go on around chasing success and hopefully one day achieving it. It's not to say that everybody will be successful in life. It all depends on what your measure is, but I'm afraid that is what it takes in order to be successful. There's a lot of stuff that goes on underneath the surface that people don't see when you see the pinnacle of what it means to be successful. So let's talk about a recipe for success. I think, it's quite a coined term, but there definitely is a recipe out there and one that we can follow. So let's look at the definition of recipe. First and foremost, a recipe is something which is likely to lead to a particular outcome. And that's important. I think it's important that we look at that and realize that a recipe is a set of steps that we must follow in order to achieve a particular outcome. And very often that recipe means that we have to gather essential ingredients, whatever those ingredients might be. We need to obviously identify what those are. We obviously then need to take action. We need to, in this case, measure, mix and bake and decorate this cake in order to make it. And that's more or less about the process and what we do on a daily basis in order to get there. And finally, the end result might well be a beautiful chocolate cake like that. And I think it's key to look at that we have to gather my essential ingredients, take action in the middle, and then ultimately we will get the results that we hopefully are after. And it's using that pretty simple process, whether you're baking a cake or looking to achieve a goal. I think it's important that we realize that that process needs to follow. So it starts at one end and we work towards our ultimate end goal. And that goal obviously often is defined in some shape or form, and sometimes it's actually not. So unfortunately, even with a great recipe, things can go wrong. As you can see, all sorts of stuff can happen. And it's not always a guarantee that things are going to turn out just the way you want it to. And I think it's important to realize that sometimes that might be a process problem. It might be an ingredient problem. And at the end of the day, sometimes it's factors that are maybe outside of your control. But things can go wrong. Now, let's look at this universal recipe for success. So if I say to you, is there a universal recipe for success? I think it's very important to realize that this is what I'm talking about. I don't know if any of you have seen anything that I've spoken about, but this is called the Success Cube. And the Success Cube is simply 6 Duplo blocks. Really, really simple tool that I've been using for probably about 18 months now to 2 years. And I've used it with a number of my athletes and my golfers and have had great success with this little cube. And I'm going to unpack about what this device is all about, this tool, and how it works and how it functions. And I think one of the great things about it is it's really helped me engage in collaborative conversation with my athletes and helped us build out a recipe, whether we've identified the ingredients that need to be put in place, or have we identified that maybe there's a better way to go about our work and create this successful environment or this process. And then ultimately looking at a way that we can then measure ourselves for success. Have we been successful or not? And then we can then reassess and reprogram or redesign and change our recipe in order to give us the desired outcome. And I think it's important to realize that the Success Cube is a tool that can be used to assess a season. It can be used to assess a tournament. It can be used to assess a round. It can be used to assess a task. It might be a putting drill that we've used it to talk about. It might even just be a session in the gym where we've looked at what we've done and we broke it all down and said, okay, well, what was that session like? And would we deem it to have been a success? And we can break it down accordingly. So a very cool tool, and I'm going to show you how this thing actually works. So let's go back to the original idea of the Success Cube. So basically, it was designed to make a difference in the lives of children initially, and purely because, it's Duplo blocks and immediately has an identification to what that is about. So I think kids immediately gravitate towards this, but I think adults, anyone who's played with Lego in their life, which I think is anyone in the last 30, 40 years, have certainly played with Lego and know what Lego is about. And I must say, even older people like to play with Lego. I love the fact that I've got 2 boys and enjoyed playing Lego with them as well. So the child inside has always been stimulated by Lego. The idea is that they actually leverage the power of what's called pervasive manipulation. So when we actually use our hands, there's a direct link to something called our hippocampus, which is actually a section in our brain where learning occurs. It involves learning, motor learning, whether it's your motor cortex or into that deep sort of neural base, cognitive learning space. My hippocampus is essential for that because it creates some very key hormones that allow me to learn better and learn faster. And when I use my hands, I'm really stimulating that CNS, that central nervous system process, and that linkage between my brain and my hands is very, very strong. And the concept actually was originally generated by Lego. It's called Lego 6 bricks, and that's why there are 6 bricks in here. And I'll go into that a little deeper about it a little later. But really, the whole idea, like I said earlier, was to stimulate a collaborative conversation and create an opportunity for feedback. And I think that's so important that when you have a conversation, it needs to be collaborative. It needs to be both parties are bringing an equal level of engagement and positivity towards that conversation. It doesn't even have to be positive. It can be negative, but at least it's constructive in that sense. And the most important part about it is that you actually do create an opportunity for feedback. And very often, when you look at a success cube that's nice and even and successfully built, that doesn't really give us the opportunity for growth. It's actually sometimes we want it to look a little bit funky and a little out of space, and it doesn't create this, and then you can get a better understanding of what's going on. So that feedback component is really, really cool. And lastly, obviously, you can share your perspective of how success can be achieved, because the fundamental levels are what this success cube is all about. So basically, like you're saying, is that the success cube is an infinite recipe book, because you can get your one recipe for a chocolate cake. You can have many recipe books that have a multitude of different recipes, and the success cube has a multitude of different recipes too, because it does showcase a lot of different elements that are involved in actually building out something and measuring yourself for success. So let's look at essentially where the Lego 6 bricks concept came from. So 6 bricks was something that was developed by Lego, like I said. And 6 bricks is one of their foundational tools used to introduce learning through play into different settings. And it's actually been used in 25 years of international business. Red Hat is an advertising company, Cisco, Juniper, you may well know any one of those companies. These are pretty big corporates that actually use the 6 bricks concept in their meetings, in their management meetings or performance meetings. And they can be used in a team environment. It can be used in a one-on-one space. And it's interesting because when I initially showed this to a number of people, you look at 6 Lego Duplo blocks and you think, well, yes, it's bright colors and yes, it's fun, but really it's quite rudimentary and really, really simple. But when you actually look at this concept, when you look at those 6 bricks, that's how many options we actually have available to us. 915 million options that there are in how we can build out 6 Duplo blocks and construct them in different shapes and formats. And that's the thing. This thing is not simple. There's so many ways that you can construct this and create, ways to engage and ways to collaborate and give yourselves feedback on all these different things, because as simple as it looks, that's how many options and variables that you have in engaging when you actually build out a structure with these 6 simple multicolored Duplo blocks. And immediately that creates great scope for conversation. But it's obviously very important that you come with that collaborative mindset from the outset. And I've had conversations with athletes when I pull out the Lego and they actually look at it and go, okay, Garth, what the hell's going on here? Like, I'm not here to play. I'm here to talk to you about the fact that I'm failing at my golf, and I'm getting quite concerned and really upset about it. But I think once I've got this out and we start to play with it and I start to explain it to them, and I'll just leave it there, and we start to build it out, it's amazing how it can open up some conversations, and I'll share some stories about that a little later. So let's look at the key ingredients. So the ingredients for me in my space as a trainer in the strength and conditioning space for golf, these are my 3 elements. I need to train hard, I need to recover well, and I need to eat a nutrient-dense diet. And whatever that might be is different to different people, but nutrition is key. And those are my 3 key ingredients, my 3 key elements that I need to work on with my athletes to ensure that they're actually making progress and that they are actually going to achieve their success, whatever they might look at. And that's part of the journey for me is moving through those three different elements and those three key components. So I think this is what the success cube is built out of. So you can see, let's look at it, like the ingredients of what is in the success cube. At the top, we've got skills, those top two blocks. In the middle, we've got work rate. And at the bottom, we've got attitude. And those are the three levels that make up the success cube. And I think it's important when we look at it, when we look at any task, we can break it down into those three levels. What are the skills necessary in order to engage in that task? What work needs to be done in order to achieve that outcome? And what was my attitude towards that outcome? Or did I even bring a great attitude towards the process, or even finding the ingredients? So I think it's a key. And we're going to talk about those three little levels now, but that's what the three levels are that make up the success cube. So let's look at the top. This is skills. It says what skills and knowledge do you need to achieve your goal? Then you've got your work rate layer, and that is what is the to-do list of things to get it done to achieve your goal. That is obviously what ingredients have I got, and then how do I bake them together and what I need to do to create it. And finally, that attitude is what mindset is needed to get you to your goal. And that's basically the three levels of what the success cube is all about. So let's start with the skill layer. So skills really can be broken down into, experience or knowledge or those elements that I need to bring towards a task. And when we look at these 21st century skills, you've got collaboration and teamwork, creative imagination, critical thinking, problem solving, adaptability, just having cultural awareness. I think that's obviously very important in South Africa at the moment, and more importantly, globally, really, to be fair. And then when we look at the skills layer, it's like, well, certainly some of those skills, I need to go and get certified. I need to go get qualified. I need to actually run through some form of training or education in order to get there. And that might be a tertiary qualification, industry experience. It might be references. It might be, IT stuff. I mean, this day and age, IT kind of drives everything. I had a little IT problem a little earlier. So obviously need to skill myself up on that a little bit more so that I can understand how to use Teams. But, the skills that are needed in order to execute a certain performance or task, this is what it's built around. And when you discuss those skills, you might look at that and go, well, actually, you know what, Garth, like your presentation ability was affected by a skill deficiency in running a Teams presentation. Well, I need to go and I need to upskill myself on how to run a Teams presentation better so that I can actually find my screen and know how to share it properly. So, that's an important component that I think we need to realize, that the skills component allows me to go out there and actually execute in the task that is required for me to perform. So let's talk about in our current state as PGA professionals, as an academy coach. Let's look at an academy coach in the PGA space. So an academy coach would want to be PGA qualified, perhaps TPR certified, either TrackMan or FlightScope trained. I mean, those launch monitors are very, very important nowadays in coaching. You may want to have some form of club fitting qualification, the rules of golf, your data analysis and things, particularly if you're using systems like TrackMan and FlightScope, or maybe a 3D assessment tool like a K-Motion or something like that. Really important thing for a skill component for academy coaches is a way to communicate, and communication not just with your players, but obviously with other coaches that you work with or that might actually be employed underneath you. Your ability to communicate is essential, because like anyone who's married will know, communication is key, and we know that if you struggle to communicate, then things do break down. So having these level of skills as an academy coach are going to be important to you in order to be successful. Right, let's look at the work rate layer next. So the work rate layer is my middle layer, and this is obviously my blood, sweat and tears layer. And this is where we need to put in the hours and put in the effort. And it's important that we look at it in the right way here. So your blue and your light blue and your green bricks is, you can look at what really builds out your work rate or your work layer is your work time, your exercise time, your rest time, how you break up your day into a routine so that you can, engage in these specific tasks that are required for you to get better. It might be certain things that you need to engage in out there. So, this is an example of a salesperson. They obviously need to go into lead generation. They need to build their pipelines. They need to be making phone calls. Hopefully it's not just cold calling for them. Hopefully they've got a network that they can reach out to. It might be, sort of reporting and forecasting and creating these reports so that they can build out a roadmap as to where they're going. It might even be training and developing people within their team, so that they can all work together in a constructive way. So, this is what the work layer is all about. It's really getting your hands dirty. It's the grind. It's the, as Ben Hogan said, it's in the dirt. I've got to go out there and I've got to go and find it. And I think that's an important component for building up success, is that the work has to be done. And so many young golfers, I'm going to say young, but a lot of golfers don't appreciate that it takes a lot of work. You've got to be willing to stand out there on that range in the driving heat, in the rain, in the wind, and hit balls and putt and chip and get in the gym and work out. And I'm afraid too many times it's that sense of, well, I'm just going to rely on my skill and not willing to put in the time and the effort. And I think, work is essential at that, being able to put in that work time. So if we look at an academy player, like I just said, like their work rate is built around, how much time are they going to have coaching? How much time are they going to spend practicing by themselves? How many hours are they going to be chipping and putting, working on their short game? Are they going to be in the gym working on their strength and conditioning? They're going to spend time with their psychologist. They're going to look at, pre and post run analysis. Statistics is a massive help in this day and age. And we've got all these sort of software systems like UpGame and things like that can really help you in assessing your statistics and working out what you need to work on to be better. And very important for me is rest and sleep and recovery, like I said in my key ingredients for me. And working on my nutrition is key. Those are all work rates. It's hard to work on your nutrition. It's easy to just stop in at a fast food place and just grab something quick, but rather than going into a shop and buying the ingredients and then going home and actually creating a healthy meal. But the outcome and if you really want to be successful, that's part of the work that you have to put in. And there's a chap who's here. He's actually Cam Smith's mental coach. His name's Jonah Oliver, and Jonah talks about the rent. What do you need to do? What needs to be paid in order for you to get to the top? What is the price of success? If you said to an Olympic athlete, well, here's the gold medal, I can guarantee that you'll stand at the top, but what are you willing to put in to get there? And that's part of what work rate is all about. And I'm afraid for a lot of people, engaging in that is very difficult because they truly may not be committed to that outcome. And I think this really falls back on this quote, which I think a lot of you may well have seen or heard before, but it's so true that hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. And I've seen that many times in our academies. I'm sure there's a lot of golf coaches nodding at their students that they know, certainly have got a lot of talent, but when talent doesn't work hard, you're going to be outworked by someone else. And I'm afraid we know that hard work really does lead to better results. And I think I love this quote by Thomas Edison. I think his opportunity is missed by most people because it's dressed in overalls and looks like work. And a lot of people are not willing to put in the time and effort and energy into a certain project or into a certain task in order to get that success at the end of it. And those opportunities come past your desk at any time in your life. And it's about recognizing it. And more importantly, getting your hands dirty and rolling your sleeves up and working in order to find that opportunity and convert that opportunity to success. And I suppose none more so than our ambassador for golf in South Africa, Mr. Gary Player. And we all know that he said the harder you practice, the luckier you get. And I mean, that's Gary's a wonderful man, and I've been fortunate to spend a lot of time with him. But maybe he's not everybody's cup of tea, but I think he deserves respect for who he is, who he was, and what he's done and what he's achieved in the game, coming from where he came from. He certainly is an icon of our sport. Of that, there's no doubt. And I think when he speaks, you certainly should listen, even though you've probably heard that story, multiple times before. All right. So the final layer and the bottom layer of the success cube, as you can see, is attitude. All right. So let's look at attitude. Okay. So it's our foundational layer, which is important for me, because an attitude at the bottom is a mental position with regard to a fact or state. And it is a feeling or emotion towards that fact or state. Okay, so you can have a negative attitude, you can be optimistic, you can be pessimistic, you can be realistic. I mean, we put it all sorts of different categories and different elements. But attitude is really the key, because it's saying It's based on what we look at and what we perceive and what we see. So if I say to you, what does this say? If you look at that straight away, some of you might see this. Opportunity is nowhere, right? But some of you might have seen, might have seen that. So opportunity is now here. And it all comes from our perspective at the end of the day. How we actually look into something really is based around our perspective. Our perspective of what we see actually governs a lot of how we take in information in the world. So, you and I might be walking through, let's say on a golf course, and we will look out and I will see certain things and you will see certain things. When I walk with certain players, all they see is trouble. They see the water, they see the bunkers, they see the long grass. They're like, oh my word, I don't want to hit it there. I mustn't go here. Get to the green. Oh, wow, geez, you mustn't go long here. Look at that. And other golfers are like, hey, man, look, it's quite wide open just right of the fairway. And actually, if I hit driver, I can hit it over everything. And it's wide open back here. And then they get on the green and they're like, well, if I just keep this under the hole, I'm always going to be putting uphill. And, this hole isn't that hard. So it all comes down to how you approach life, how you approach the world, how you see the world. And that really does have an influence on what you would see in a sign or a graphic like that. So the attitude layer is built up of these sort of different attitudes to life, whether it's I'm grateful, am I adaptable, optimistic, am I competitive, like all of these things all add layers towards what it means to be success. And those attitude layers are key. And when you look at an attitude example of an academy player, for example, those are the attitudes that I feel like a lot of players really need to have. They need to be enthusiastic. They need to be committed. My favorite one of the lot is they need to be curious. I think curiosity certainly brings out our ability to learn and a desire to learn and adapt and create something new. And again, a play thing like this it sort of engages their curiosity. You need to be coachable. You need to be humble and grateful and accountable. That's key. At the end of the day, accountability is a massive part of an academy player and the ability to progress and make gains and improve. And I think most coaches will attest to that. Those are certainly attitudes that are important. And there's obviously more. Every player will have their own level or attitudes that they feel they need to bring to the party. So really the bottom line is that your attitude really affects everything, because it's going to affect your ability to get out there and do the hard work. It's going to affect the skills that you're going to be willing to go out there and engage in and learn. And are you willing to go out and get TPI certified if you're a coach? Are you willing to pay, to find the money and make it happen? Because you realize that, if I do gain that skill set and I put in the hard work, then I'm going to become, a better coach, because the attitude is the foundation of the success cube. Because everything else is built on top of your attitude. It really is the foundational layer of what it means to be successful. Because if you bring a stinky attitude, it doesn't matter. You're not going to engage in the work and you're never going to develop the skills. But what I really find really exciting about the attitude layer is that you can make an immediate impact on your attitude, because an attitude is a choice. It really is a choice. And sometimes that choice can be very hard because of your situation that you find yourself in. But at the end of the day, if you want to improve, you want to be better, you want to change, you want to adapt, attitude is everything. And you can change it like that, to be honest. And it's not to say that it doesn't take work. Of course it does. Setting your alarm for, 4:45 so you can make the 5 a.m. club to get up and get to the gym, or even just roll out of bed and get on downstairs to your exercise bike or roll on your mat to do your exercises or your stretches. That is an attitude. It's a commitment, and it's not easy. It's very easy to just turn over and push the snooze button and go back to sleep. But the attitude component is essential, and it really does help create success from the ground up. So I'm sure many of you may well have read this book or even heard of Angela Duckworth, but grit is everything. She says, grit is sticking with your future day in and day out. It's not just for the week, it's not just for the month, but for years, and working really hard to make that future a reality. And, between Angela Duckworth and I think many of you may have seen a lady named Dr. Carol Dweck, she talks a lot about growth mindset. And, you combine grittiness with a growth mindset. I think, the world is your oyster and you can certainly achieve a lot because where work rate and attitude meets, that's how we're going to find success. And those two elements are super duper essential in our pursuit of success. So again, our good old Mr. Gary Player, I love this quote that he put out. He said, "To succeed in life, you must be determined and prepared to suffer during the process. I don't really see how you can succeed otherwise, or otherwise succeed." And Gary certainly came from a humble grounding, humble beginnings, and he had to work hard. He really did. It was hard. It was tough. He put up with a lot of adversity and experienced a lot of failure too. But that grittiness, that willingness to push through, is essential. And I think in this day and age, I certainly know as a parent, and I'm sure other parents out there know, it can be quite difficult to teach grittiness. Like, how do you create grittiness? How do you make someone gritty? How do you give them resolve and resilience? And, in our modern world where, at the click of a phone, you can get anything you want delivered straight to you. And I think that level of entitlement that I think a lot of us as coaches see with juniors and with our golfers, not just juniors in this day and age, it's very difficult to overcome. And I'm afraid often that entitlement is a big hurdle in our pursuit of success, because it means that we're not willing to put in the time and effort and energy and the work in order to get it, because we feel like we deserve something. And it's something that I say to my golfers, and one of my really good friends, actually too, I just said to him, this game owes you nothing. Golf doesn't owe you anything. Why do you think that just because you practice and you hit balls that golf is going to give you good results? It's not how this game works. Golf is by definition overcoming adversity. I think anyone who's watched Robin Williams' take on it has had a good laugh, but it's true. There's stuff in the way, and that is what golf is about. We're going to make it hard. There's adversity, in front of you with every shot. And I do say this to my players. I say, if you wanted a guaranteed result, well, then you're playing the wrong sport. You need to go play snooker, because snooker, the table's the same, the felt, once you've got the speed, like the balls don't move, there's no wind, it's indoors, there's no outside elements. Like, if you hit the shot the way that you should get you're going to probably get the result that you sort of desire. But golf is not like that. And I think that level of grittiness is key. And I think as parents, we can try and build grittiness through, chores and maybe earning your pocket money, not just being given an allowance and things like that. But that's a whole nother conversation. But I think it's important that kids who feel like the entitlement thing is a big thing. There's no such thing as a successful person who's got a silver spoon in their mouth. That's basically the way that I see it. So this is an important factor. And I think it's important that we understand this, that you need all three layers for the success recipe to work. You need skills, work rate, and attitude. Now, just the attitude alone is not going to be good enough, because when we look at this, the three components, that's why the success cube is the three layers together. And in order to be successful, all three layers need to be in place so that you can get a proper success cube shape. So when we look at skill and attitude without work rate, well, I mean, the hare certainly had the skill and attitude, but he didn't have the work rate, and the tortoise beat him. Attitude and work rate without skill, well, then you're just running around like a headless chicken, because you actually don't have the skill set in order to execute and achieve the task and complete the task. If you have skill and work rate with a flawed attitude, well, then that can be used for nefarious tasks, none more so than this gentleman, Mr. Lance Armstrong. And he said here, "My ruthless desire to win at all costs served me well on the bike, but the level it went to for whatever reason is a flaw. And that desire, that attitude, and that arrogance is what cost him his career, his reputation, and pretty much everything." And I'm sure many of you know the story of Lance Armstrong and what happened and has been happening in cycling for a very long time, but particularly Lance, because he basically lied to the world. And his attitude, won at all costs, ended up costing him dearly. This is an unknown quote, but I love it. Winning at all costs could mean losing more than you could ever imagine. And that's kind of what happened to Lance Armstrong. So when we bring it all together, that's what the success cube should look like. It should look like a perfect, successful cube. And that's how we measure our success, is when we get everything just right. So let's look at this. When you're going to set out a goal, right? This achievement process, this absolute achievement process is key. I think, any psychologist we'll propound this. You need to set out your goal first and foremost, because if you don't define a goal, then we don't really know where we're going and what are we looking to achieve. And maybe it might be winning a tournament. It might be, going to Sunshine Tour School and getting through first stage and then getting to second stage and then getting your tour card. It might be a lady who's come to you at your academy and has said, you need to help me. I can't get out of bunkers. Like literally, it might be she just can't get it out of the bunker. And I know certainly my mother struggled with that, and we defined a goal. And I said, right, we're going to make sure that you can get out of the bunker every single time. And whether that might be to hit it close or not, that's not the point. It's just get out of the bunker, because it just cost us so many shots. And so we did. We set out a goal and said, right, let's make sure we can get you out of bunkers. Then we took action towards that goal. We set out a process saying, okay, well, you're going to go to the golf course. You're going to go twice a week. You're going to go to the bunker area, and we're going to work on becoming better at getting out of bunkers. So you've got to take that action, right? Then we check your progress. What is working, and more importantly, what isn't working. So you've got to look at it. You've got to analyze your process and go, okay, well, am I actually getting better? Am I making progress? Am I moving towards my goal here? And work on what is working, right? If it's working, well, then keep working at it. More importantly, though, is change the things that are not working. And I'm afraid so many times we miss this step, and we almost sometimes are not willing to look honestly at this step and go, well, this isn't working. But we just continue on blindly down that path. And I'm afraid we end up getting further and further away from our goal. And then ultimately, you just got to repeat that process. So don't give up. You might not see the results immediately, but by continuing building and molding this process, you're going to be chasing and achieving, well, getting closer to achieving your goals, we would hope. So this is what it looked like. First and foremost, you got to define your goal. Then you take action towards your goal, check your progress, keep doing what's working. More importantly, change the things that are not working. That's essential. And then repeat that process. And then you go back to taking action, right? So it's just continuous feedback loop that we go through. And the most important thing here is that you need to look and check your progress and have a discussion with your coach, or as a coach, you need to have discussions with your students about what is working and what isn't working. And identifying those two things is key, because that's going to help you repeat a process that is actually going to get you closer towards your goal. And that is what I've found with the Success Cube, where I've had the most amazing successful results with this, has been in that process of having a discussion about things in an open and honest environment. So this is an element of how do we help everyone find it. And I'm going to tell a story here quickly about the Success Cube and my son in particular. So my son and I were we were in George, where we live, and this is my older son, and he was, at the time, he was 10 years old, 11 years old, 11. And he played golf with his brother, and his brother's 2 years younger than him. And, he fancies himself as a decent golfer, and he is fairly decent. Anyway, they went out and played, and Aaron had seen the Success Cube. He'd seen it on my desk, and he'd asked me about it, and I showed it to him, and we talked about it. And that was probably only about a month later that he then played golf with his brother and two other boys. And he had a terrible day and didn't play very well, and obviously was expecting to play well, felt like he was entitled to play well and beat his brother, and he didn't. And in fact, he played really poorly, and his brother beat him. Anyway, I fetched him from the golf club afterwards, and there was lots of tears and upsetness, and particularly from his younger brother, because he said that his brother's behavior was really, really not very pleasant at all. And, like most parents, I wanted to berate them, and particularly berate him for that. But I thought, well, I'm going to not, rip the Band-Aid off here. I said to him, listen, let's not talk about it now. Let's go home. Let's go have a swim. It's hot. And we had a swim. And anyway, afterwards, I went upstairs. I got out of my swimming trunks, and I came downstairs, and Aaron was sitting at the table with the Success Cube, and he was building out his Success Cube based on the day. And I just watched him do it. And I came on over once he'd finished, and he put it on the table. He said, Dad, that was my Success Cube today. And we then spoke about what he'd built out in the shape of his cube, and it didn't look anything like a cube. And we then had one of the most incredible 45-minute talks, very open, very objective, but subjective at the same time, about not just his performance on the golf course, but more about his attitude to life and his attitude around the relationship with his brother and a lot of things. And it was the most amazing 45 minutes. And there's no ways that I could have had that level of openness and constructive conversation with him if I'd had that in the car, within 10 minutes of us leaving the golf club. And I honestly, that was the first real experience I had of using the Success Cube. And I walked away from that conversation and I looked at this very innocuous device and I was like, wow, that was amazing. And I've subsequently used the Success Cube with juniors, elite amateurs. I've used it with my professional players. It doesn't matter. We can really help everybody find success by looking at these 3 key layers that are built around the Success Cube. And we're going to delve into that a little bit deeper now. So when we look at a guy like Lewis Hamilton, this aggregation of marginal gains is something that I deal with on a regular basis in my space because of the professional level of the sport. But we're looking at what is that 1%? Because a 1% difference can be a tenth of a second. That can mean the difference between success and failure. So there's this chap. He's a jockey. His name's AP McCoy. He's rode a record 4,358 winners in his career. Okay, that makes him a champion jockey 20 consecutive years in a row. Every year he was a professional, he succeeded, right? He was champion jockey, but he said he's ridden more winners than any other jockey. He's also ridden more losers than any other jockey and has fallen off more times than any other jockey. So that actually should make him the biggest failure, but he literally got back up on the horse and continued to ride. So this is the key. If we look at our ability to perform, we need to look in the mirror and be open and honest with ourselves and have good self-reflection. Because I love this quote from Simon Sinek. He says, the goal is not to be perfect by the end. The goal is to be better tomorrow. And I think that's part of this whole process-driven orientation that we speak about. So how do we go about creating success? Okay, so now let's break down what this is about. The Success Cube recipe card is what we do. And it allows us to build out and answer this question, what does excellence look like? So when we look at the recipe card, you've got skills, work rates, and attitude. And we give this to every single athlete and you break it down. And you need to write out the key elements of what you need. So using the Success Cube. So say you're going to start using the Success Cube, you write out what skills do I need, what work rate is needed, and what must my attitude be in order to get the results out of using the Success Cube and how to use it appropriately. And those are the elements. And we can look at any sport, any engagement, any task, and we can break it down. There's this lady, Taylor Glenn, and she did this. She actually used the Success Cube concept, and she tries to learn new skills. And you can break it down. The skills of being able to juggle. She needs to throw from a right hand to a left hand. She needs to throw from a left hand to a right hand and catch it. She broke down what it means to juggle 3 balls. What skills does she need? The work rate is she obviously needs to find 3 suitable objects. She needs to set aside 10 minutes a day, and she built out the work rate. And then she had to bring an attitude towards it. She had to be accountable. She had to be honest. She had to be determined. She had to then wrote out what that means to be accountable, what it means to be determined, what it means to be grateful and humble in learning this new task. And we can do this in anything that you do, whether it might be, I did this with my son now about writing his term 2 exams. Like, his skills is obviously he needs to keep a tidy study space. He needs to manage his time. He needs to find past papers. He needs to take notes properly. His work rate is he needs to find time, particularly on the weekends. He's in boarding school, so when he's got the weekends off, he needs to find time to do this sort of stuff. And then his attitude, obviously, he needs to be accountable and honest and tenacious. And that's what we put out for him. So, here's an example of a college tennis player. We can do this for any sport. Let's talk about an IT sales professional. Like, you can look at the skills that are needed, the work rate and the attitude, and you put these things onto your recipe card, and then it helps you build out a plan so that you can move forward. So obviously the Success Cube in and of itself is a tool. This is actually what is really truly workable, is once you put the recipe card in place, and then you can really work out your skills, your work rate, and your attitude. So there we look at our academy player earlier, what we had. There's our skills in the one block, there's our work rate in the middle, and obviously our attitude on the right. And it's important that you engage with your player when you do this and get them to write out these things so that they are fully accountable into what they're doing. There's another one for putting, for example. So you can see how it all plays out and how it all works. It's important that you break out these different elements so that you can improve each individual element or each concept. So when we look at the scoring protocol, I'll break it down very quickly. In order to build out a success cube, if you line up the two blocks evenly together, that would be 100%, right? That would be 75%. That would be 50%. That would be 25%. And ultimately, that would be 0. So you can see when I build out my block, when I'm going to make it, I put the blocks down in accordance to how I've rated my attitude in that specific task. So if I felt like my attitude was 100, I put it like that, right? That's pretty simple. So there would be 100% scoring in my attitude. That would be 75, that would be 50, that would be 25, and ultimately that would be if I was a 0. Okay, so I would then lay that down on the table, however I saw it in accordance. So let's say I had a work rate attitude, well, my attitude was 50%. Okay, so I put that down on the ground, I put it down on the table, and then I'd go, okay, well, here's my work rate. If I felt like I was 100% with my work rate, I'd lay down my work rate layer at 100% like that on top of it. Okay, pretty simple, right? If I said my attitude was 50%, my work rate was only 25%, and my skill was 100%, this is what my cube would look like. So basically, there's my 100% gone. Now there's my work rate. You see it's at 25%. And then I'll just build out my, let's say my skills I felt was only 50%. That's what it would look like. So you see how it changes as we go, and that's how we then build it out. And you can see it in the end, you can end up with a cube that potentially doesn't look like a successful cube. It looks somewhat discombobulated and a little bit unstructured. And it's when you look at a success cube that isn't perfect, that doesn't have a perfect shape like this, and has a couple of little edges and, you know, deformities, it helps you really look at where are my gaps. You know, is my actual success cube really strong or not? And more importantly, where can I take the action that's needed to improve? So let's do a quick summary of what the success cube is about and how we move forward with this. I think it's critical to help people realize that success does not depend on just one or two of the layers. All the layers are key. I know hard work is important. We know you need the skills, and a great attitude is essential. I think we've established that. The success cube can be used for big goals and small goals. It can be, like I said, it can be used to assess a season. It can be used to assess a putting drill. It's really, really cool because of the adaptability of the concept and what it's all about. And ultimately, attitude is the foundation. So it has the potential for quick win with lots of impacts, but more importantly, it affects everything. Your attitude is key. And it's not to say that you have to be positive all the time. Sometimes negativity is important because it helps you be honest. And I think it's important that we understand that bringing the right attitude towards conversations is key as a coach and as a student, as a manager and as a team member. You know, in that leadership environment, as a coach or as a club manager, it's important that we bring the right type of attitude towards certain conversations. And sometimes it needs to be I want to say a dominant attitude or a distinctive attitude. Sometimes you need to be harsh. You need to be reprimanding. That's just part and parcel of what it means to have a successful meeting with somebody in a certain environment. But attitude is certainly everything. So in order, I think maybe if anyone is really keen on looking at a success cube, I think it's important that we understand that it works. This thing works. It has a proven track record. It's effective. I found that it really has produced satisfying results. It's very simple. Anyone can use the cube. I certainly have found that in its simplicity lies its genius, and I think it holds true. And look, there's lots of different ways that you can do this, right? It's not to say that the success cube is the only way, but I think it's such a cool tool to use. And going forward, I've had great collaborative conversations with clients, with students, with my family, obviously, as I said. And if anyone is interested in getting a success cube, please shoot me an email. I'm more than happy to help, more than happy to engage with someone, and I can even send you a cube and you can have a look at it and figure it out. And if you want to join our team, then please do let me know. So look, if there are any questions, I'm happy to take them. So thank you, folks.
Thank you, Garth. That was a very insightful session. We really appreciate it. If there's anyone with a question, please just unmute yourself and ask the question. Alternatively, just put it in the chat and we'll manage it from there.
That is.
pretty much only a lot of
Awesome.
thanks, Garth.
There's a lot of thank yous. Yeah, okay, thank you, folks. Listen, so in all honesty, like, please reach out. You have my email address. If anyone has any questions or anything, please reach out to me. I love engaging with you, with everyone from the PJ. And I think, if we can help, grow this game together, I think that's what it's all about. That's what the PJ's mandate is. And if we can help our students and our members and our staff really grow and, achieve more success, then we're doing a good job. So thank you, everybody, for taking the time out and attending. I really do appreciate it. And go Stingers.
Awesome, Garth. Thanks so much. And all of the best to you and your team also on that side. Hoping
Thank
for
you.
the best. And also, thanks to all the pros that came to watch. We really appreciate it. And then hopefully we'll see you at the next one.
Perfect. Thanks, folks.
I say bye, everyone.
Bye.